history on him. It's going to take me about 2 days, but just bear with me. Fraternally, he's a lecturer on Masonic symbolism, leadership, and organization. He's published in several Masonic research journals, 26 years in Masonic education. There's a blog talk radio, Masonic and sociological commentator, past chairman of the annual symposium on esoteric masonry, the co-chairman of the Knights of Freemasonry Universal International Masonic Charitable Foundation. In his research, he was the past president, executive board member of the Philanthropy Society, fellow and founding member of the Masonic Society, member of Masonic Brotherhood, the Blue Forget-Me-Nots, International Fellowship in Authors and Educators. He's a member of the Philaxis Society. He's a fellow of the Grand College of Rites, member of the Scottish Rite Research Society, member of Dr. Charles H. Wesley's Masonic Research Society. Professionally, he was a managing partner, is a managing partner, Sharrieff Group, LLC in New York, New York. He's associated professor of sociology. He worked at Hofstra University, the State University of New York. Doctoral studies, organizational systems, Fielding Graduate University of Santa Barbara, California. He's a member of the American Sociological Association, Society for Organizational Learning, Organization for Development Network, Society for Human Resource Management, Association for Talent Development, American Association of University Members, Professors Members, National Organization. Member of American Public Human Service Association, Association for Public Policy. Look, listen, this brother put in all that work. He deserves to get that acknowledgement. Right? Charlie Coach Fellow in the New York Hospital Association. And I said 2 days, right? And this last part I will give brief. From 1998 through 2009, Brother Sharrieff-Al-Bey has been published at least 10 times. Huh? Give him a hand. That's a lot of work.
Giving honor to God, to whom all praise is due and from whom all blessings flow. In whose life, in whose hands we have our lives and our realities. I don't know who that guy was, man. He was talking about it. Wow, I hope I can stand up to that like he just talked about. If I sound a little bit nervous, it's because I am. I never give a public talk and I'm not nervous, but especially at a time like this. And I wonder if you know why. It's because you all are God's people. That's not a light thing. You're God's people. You can't come and stand in front of God's people and then BS. I mean, you know what I mean? You have to take that seriously. There's consequences involved. You can hear me. I want to introduce you to this beautiful, beautiful queen that I was blessed to walk in here with today. She's my life, really. This is Yolanda Ellison, please.
Yolanda.
Every day I wake up and look over and see her, I feel truly gifted. Truly gifted. She came all this way from Detroit to here with me, to support me in this. And that's another reason that I'm a little nervous, because this is the first time she's really hearing me give a public talk. Yeah. Well, one of the things that you heard had to do with Freemasonry, or many of the things actually that you heard had to do with Freemasonry. I am a member of Cornerstone Lodge number 37, Prince Hall of Sodality here in New York. I'm a past master there, and I have to rep my people. So there's that. Everything that we do, we should also honor the ancestors in it. You know, you probably hear about that from time to time, about ancestors this and ancestors that. But that's not a light thing either. We are our ancestors, despite that video. I've seen it going around. Oh, we are not our ancestors. Who the Sam Hill are you? Because everybody else recognizes that they're their ancestors. And I don't mean that in some, like, just, colloquial way of speaking. We literally are made of them. Like, they're the main ingredient. Right? My beautiful queen and I, we like to watch a lot of things about the UFOs, and the government finally admitted what everybody has been knowing for the longest, right? Yes, they're real. They come sometimes and take people with them. Some of them they bring back. This might seem a little off the topic at first. But they've been with us a long time. And the crop circles and all that stuff, it's been with us a long time. And one day, Carl Sagan, raise your hand if you ever heard of Carl Sagan. More hands should go up. Now you got homework. I know you heard I used to teach down the street there. Homework. I want you to look up and find out who is Carl Sagan. That's a name to know. And he and a bunch of other scientists got together and they created a message using the only language that is really, really, really true, mathematics. Yeah. Mathematics. She got my respect when I found out she had a degree in mathematics. I said, oh my God, smarter than me. But mathematics is a true language. That's right. That's the language of God. And so they composed a message to whomever out there somewhere might receive it, right? And sent it, pointed it in a direction to go light years, thousands of light years away. Raise your hand if you know what a light year is. That means I have to tell you what a light year is for the ones who didn't know. Light travels at 186,000 miles. Did you hear? 186,000 miles in every second. How many times could you travel around this earth? The earth is only 24,896 miles in circumference. Only, I say. Because if you could travel 186,000 miles in a second, you could go around the earth a few times in a second. But if I tell you what we had to go through just trying to get here from Detroit. Okay? That's 1 second. Now take that distance in the space of a full year. How far would you have gone? Unimaginable, Pastor Master David said. You can't get your head around that. And that's 1 light year. Now we're talking about thousands of light years. They sent this message. And in 27 years, an answer came back. You didn't hear me.
They didn't tell us.
Now, in the message that they sent out, they showed the basis of our numbering system. To try to, you have to establish that you all can speak a common language, right? So that was the first thing on the message. And then our solar system, with it showed our star and all our planets, right? And in the line that showed our planets, the one that was the third from our star was higher than the rest. That's to show where home is, right? They showed a binary representation of a human being, like a little stick man, right? Or stick lady, could have been stick lady, right? How many people are on our planet? Yeah. There was a representation of the helix that our DNA is made with. And a couple of other things I don't recall. Honey, that was pretty much it, right? No, I check in, bro. No, I check in, okay? I'm not one of those guys. I listen. I got 2 ears, like bro said. The answer had the same arrangement of information, but according to them. How many planets was in their star? Which 3 planets they occupy in that system were elevated. Our little message said we're about, I think at the time it may have been about 4 billion people. 4 billion people were on the planet here.
Then, 8 now.
8 now.
8 now.
Theirs said 36 billion. Not too long ago, there was this big hoopla going on because, somebody saw a UFO or whatever it was, and they said, well, what are we going to do? What the Sam Hill can we do? Something that can write you back, and it took thousands of years, according to your estimation, for them to get the message. They done got it, decoded it, responded to it, and sent it back to you in your own lifetime? Yeah. This probably seems like a whole different topic. No. Yesterday is history. This morning is history. Because it's afternoon. So these beads are called ilekes. They come from a spiritual tradition out of what is now Nigeria, from the Yoruba people. I traced the DNA on my mother's side and found out that my people are from there, among others. Okay? Each one of them has a pattern of colors that has a specific meaning. But the reason I'm mentioning this to you now is because the tradition is now in its calendar year of 10,066. Have you ever heard of the Dogon people?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of how they were in communication with something that was able to tell them about a star that only recently became visible because it was hidden behind? You had a star called Sirius, but that was Sirius A, the one we can see. But then there was Sirius B, which was this tiny, tiny speck of a star behind Sirius A. You can't see it from Earth. We only recently developed the technology to even be able to detect its presence.
The James telescope.
Yes.
What James Webb?
The Webb. Now, so how did they know? How did they find it out? We usually look into things once we can become aware of its existence, right? But if you're not aware of its existence, it's never going to occur to you to look into it. So who pulled their coat to that? They have a whole elaborate system of spirituality that is based on their knowledge of these people. And when the scientists came and interviewed these people and found out the level of what they know about a star system, parts of which you can't even know are there, the scientists were astounded because they have a whole different way of verifying information. So now all the hair on their necks began to stand up. Do you know how old this Dogon culture is? that makes it history. So the forms of life, of intelligent life, that have been visiting this planet for the longest are a part of history. Their helixes were triple. They had an extra DNA helix. Extra to us. We have 2, they had 3. I'm saying some things to you just because I want to just shake you up a little bit. I want to make the wheels in your heads turn some. Don't feel comfortable that you know. You know just enough to know that you don't know. There was a cleric by the name of Nicholas of Cusa. He came up with a term called learned ignorance. Learned ignorance. First, you don't know. Then you find out that there is this thing you don't know. You know about, but you don't know. And then you study. And you study so much that you become a master of that particular kind of information. Right? And then if you continue to study it and to work it and to master it, eventually you come to a point where you know just enough about it to know that you have only perhaps scratched the surface. And that he called learned ignorance. It's not just ignorant ignorance. It's learned ignorance. So we've talked a lot today about change. I have to tell you something about change. I found this out about change in January of 2001, and it changed my life completely. And then you'll understand why that statement is almost paradoxical when I share with you what I learned. So if you have a car, let me see you raise your hand.
Car?
Yeah.
Car?
Yeah, that's pretty much everybody. Right? Pretty much. If you don't have a car, but you've been in one,
Okay.
that takes care of everybody else, right? All right, now I got everybody. So let's say that your car is blue, dark blue car. You take it down. When I was a kid, there was this guy, Earl Shive. Paint any car for $19.95. Remember him?
Yeah.
And so they strip the paint off your car and they paint your car a new color. What color do you want them to paint it?
Red.
Red. Paint it to a red car. Your insurance rates just went up. Facts. Facts. Same car? Or different car? Same car. Okay. All right. You go on the inside of the car and you know there's this it's almost like carpeting, but it's over your head. You pull it all down and you put a new one up there. And you take it all off the sides of the car inside. Replace it. Heck, pull the seats out. Pull them out. Put new seats in. Pull the carpet up off the floor, slap a new one down. Go around the outside, take off all the tires, wheels, put new rims, new rubber, throw up the hood, drop in a new engine. Change the whole drivetrain. Same car? A lot of change. Same car. They've got these vehicles now where it looks like a donut. And it operates by the use of electromagnetic interaction with a grid work under the asphalt. So it's able to hover. You ever see that experiment when you were a child in school and they would take the two magnets and put the wrong ends next to each other and it would repulse away? It operates on something like that. They have one in the front of the donut so it can't run into the donut in front of you. They have one in the back of the donut so the other guy can't hit you. No gas, fumes, none of that. And you just sit in it and you say where you want it to take you, and it takes you, and it can't bump into or be bumped into, right? Same car? I think not. Your transportation experience has now been transformed. That's the difference. We need transformation. We don't need change. We've been having change a long time. Yet we're still in the same place, same car. You didn't hear me. I see y'all not going to help me because it's Saturday and not Sunday. So, but I work with it.
Put the camera down. You want to say something like that?
Things have been being revealed to us to help us along for a very long time. But we haven't understood. Not because we didn't want to. We didn't have the capacity to yet. We didn't have the experiential foundation in some cases to understand it. You know, sometimes the things that you say to your child at 3, you get a much different result when you say that same thing to the child at 8. Because the child has had a chance to mature to a point of understanding. To say is to know. To do is to understand. So 2 travelers were walking through a dense jungle area. And they were talking to one another, you know, and joking with one another as they were walking. And there were some parrots up in the trees. Now, you know, a parrot is the type of an animal that it can mimic what it heard. And so the parrots were listening to the joke. And when the joke was finished, the parrot flew home to the nest. They said, hey, baby, I gotta tell you this one. And the parrot told his mate. And they talked about this. And they vowed that when they had some eggs, and the eggs hatched, they were gonna teach this valuable information from the 2 beings that were walking. These superior beings, okay? That had shared this fantastic information. And they taught it to the eggs when the eggs hatched. They taught it to Heckle and Jekyll.
They don't know who Heckle and Jekyll.
And Heckle and Jekyll mastered this information. They could repeat it going forward or backward. And when they had eggs, they taught all the eggs as soon as they hatched. They could all, the grand eggs, could speak it verbatim. And this went on for generations upon generations of parrots. And one day, many generations down the line, some parrots were up on branches in the jungle. And they were talking about this information. And one of them was proud, right? He was a proud parrot. He stood up on the branch and started to elocute the entire joke. Unbeknownst to them, more travelers were coming through. And they heard the parrot's conversation. And they heard this grand elocution. And when the parrot got to the punchline, the travelers laughed. Why? Because they understood the joke. The parrots had never ever laughed in the whole time generations of parrots talked because they didn't understand what they were passing down. So it's not that we don't share the information from generation to generation. It's that we don't understand how to convey the import. You know, there's a lot of organizations that have parrots like that too, but that's like kind of going in another story.
All right.
To understand what we are seeing and what we're hearing, we have to have full context. You can't just get piecemeal information. You have to have a context for that information to exist in. There's been a lot of talk lately. You hear the word Holocaust being thrown around a lot. Mm-hmm. Nod your head if that's been your experience. I've been hearing a lot about the Holocaust, right? The Holocaust. As if there had only been one Holocaust. And that everybody automatically knows what Holocaust you must be speaking about because you say the Holocaust, right? I know I'm embarrassing her, but I say the Queen. Why? Because she's the only one that will ever be for me. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. For me. For me. Now, have there been other Holocausts?
Yes.
Yes.
How many people do they say perished in that Holocaust that happened in Germany back in
6 million.
6 million. How many of a particular people?
100 million.
No, not that particular people. The ones from Germany.
Oh, 6 million.
You often hear 6 million blank. Okay. Did you know that some people who perished in that Holocaust were what they would call gypsies. More properly called the Roma people?
Yes.
They were part of that 6 million. You never hear about them.
Handicap.
Did you know that if someone had developmental disabilities, physical disabilities of certain kinds, they perished in that Holocaust? You never hear about them. Did you know that Freemasons perished in that Holocaust because they were Freemasons? Did you know that? They used to have a tradition called about a flower called the Vergessen mein nicht. It means forget me not. It's a little blue flower. The story goes that they would wear this little blue flower in their lapel, and this was the only way that they could kind of like know a brother that they didn't know, right? It's a nice story. It conveys a good meaning. It didn't actually go that way. But the Masons have a society, a research society for authors and educators based on that story. And so that's how I found out about it. They were part of that Holocaust as well. It was, I would say, somewhere within the last 30 years, maybe more, maybe a little less, that the Grand Lodge in Germany received their materials back that were confiscated by the German government just that recently ago. But somehow this other group that was also part of that Holocaust was stretched out to be 6 million. Why has that got any relevance right now? Because, raise your hand if you've ever heard of a man named Rhodes.
Rhodes, absolutely.
Like, you know, the Rhodes Scholarship?
Cecil Rhodes.
Cecil Rhodes? You know, some of the best and the brightest black people in the world of academic scholarship get the chance to be selected to receive a Rhodes Scholarship. In the world of academics, that's a big thing. Cecil Rhodes They named the country after him. It was called Rhodesia. It has a different name now. But he was a colonizer in Africa. And millions upon millions perished as a result of Cecil B. Rhodes. And we feel honored to get that award named after him. The money that award pays out is so much that it perpetuates its own self so that it never runs out. Raise your hand if you like chocolate.
Love it.
Yeah, see, that's what I know.
Love it.
Okay?
Okay.
What bright star in here can tell me where some of the best chocolate in the world comes from?
Belgium.
Belgian chocolate. Boy. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Leopold II,
Yes.
who was the king of Belgium back in the day.
Back in the day.
Leopold decided that he wanted to just take over a chunk of Africa for himself, personally, and force those people to deliver cacao, which is what chocolate is made from, and rubber. Natural resources that belong, if to anyone, to the people who live there, that's where they're from. He decided he wanted that wealth for himself, personally, not even for Belgium, for himself. To make sure that he was getting all the available cacao that they could deliver, he would institute penalties. If they didn't pick their quota, their hands would be cut off. Now you better keep up your quota with the one hand you had left. Some people lost both hands. Yeah. And what happened next? They started to make these little delicacies. Chocolate hands. Little chocolate hands. I kid you not. They still have them now. You didn't hear me. All that's history too. It's important to understand the context of things that we hear. We can't know the right steps to make if we don't know where the footsteps have led to and where they have led from. I'm going to give you some homework. I want you to take one and pass them around until they run out. Old habits die hard, don't be mad at me. I will be a teacher until the day I die.
Right.
What about the Emancipation Proclamation? Have we heard of the Emancipation Proclamation?
Yes.
What did it do?
Freed slaves in the South, supposedly.
Supposed to.
Okay.
In the South.
That is the narrative. It freed the slave. Emancipation means freedom, doesn't it? And so it's supposed to have freed the slaves. It's important to know what that document was and what it wasn't, what it did, what it didn't do. We might have different words to talk about it if we knew some different information. The distinctions are important. Raise your hand if you have ever ridden a bike. Raise your hand if you remember when you couldn't ride a bike. When every attempt meant you were either going to fall or bump into something. I remember when I learned how to ride a bicycle. I was 11 years old. My mother had bought me a blue Raleigh, the model of the bike was called a Stingray.
Oh, yeah.
And it had these bars that would come up like this, right? I lived in Brooklyn back then, in a section of town called Ocean Hill, Brownsville. And the homes were all like brick row homes, like when you watch the Cosbys and you see the brick row homes. I was allowed to ride my bicycle from in front of my house to in front of Mrs. Key's house next door. Turn around and go back. That's where I could ride my bike to. I couldn't ride the bike that far. I could never make it to the line that joined the two houses. So I would just kind of push off, foot to foot. This was riding my bike. Right? Yeah, skating while sitting down, basically. And something happened one day. My sneaker string, the loop, got caught. And I couldn't move my foot to push off the next time. And so in the effort to not fall, I was trying to just hold on long enough to where I could get the lacer loose and get my foot back again. But in those seconds, I experienced the distinction of balance. Once I learned the distinction of balance, it's like a whole different feeling happened to me on the inside. But because you know how to ride, I know you know the feeling that I'm talking about. Don't you? Say yes.
Yes.
You know what a distinction feels like when you get one. Yes. Brother said an epiphany. Absolutely. That's what it is. Because after that, you can never go back to the time you didn't have that distinction.
Yes.
So you're not changed, are you? You are transformed. That's what we need. We wouldn't have the same issues going on ever since the Emancipation Proclamation all the way until today if we were transformed. You only need to change one element or one value in the equation to change the entire outcome. It doesn't depend on what the other people do or don't do, accept or don't accept.
Yes.
It matters what value it is that they have to interact with that changes the outcome. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So there are some distinctions that we are lacking. That's what the problem has been. The difference between a problem and a dilemma is that a dilemma has no solution. Every problem always does. That's why when you go to school and you learn mathematics, you learn problems. You don't learn dilemmas. You hear me? See, I'm a sociologist, but I like math too. I love math. It is my way. So the picture that you have in front of you, if enough of them, if we had enough of them, is a representation of somebody at a pool table, a billiards table. And if you look, you'll see two balls. One is orange and one is yellow, or amber, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And just above where they are, you can see a common point where both of them were shot from. Does it make sense? Can you make that out? Well, here's the thing. If you shoot the ball from the same exact spot, in the same direction, to get both balls to wind up in the same place, you would have to also strike the ball at the same precise angle with the same exact amount of force, the same exact velocity. It would have to hit the same exact place on the bank when the ball's moved. As you can see, the first time they hit the bank, there's a tiny, tiny bit of variance, isn't there?
Yep.
And because of that very tiny bit of variance that happened right at the beginning, at the moment that you struck the ball, look how they wind up in completely different locations. It's a very rudimentary, very basic demonstration of that truth, isn't it? But mathematics are some powerful language to use, okay? What we're talking about here is variance. And look at the outcome, just in a few bounces around a pool table.
Same place.
You see? So the variance has to happen within us individually, and then it will automatically happen collectively. We have to look at ourselves, and we have to figure out what is it that we have to do to transform our personal experience in life. That's what really matters for us. Brother Malik was talking about that very thing earlier. What can we do right now, today, that doesn't change the outcomes, but that it transforms it? Some things in our culture. What is culture? It's a pattern of shared basic assumptions. Well, there's a problem right there. What are some of the things we assume?
We share the same assumptions.
Did you know that when we talk about doing things together that are in our interest, do we factor in that we don't all have the same interests?
Right.
Do we factor in that some of us don't want to grow? Do we factor in that it's okay to some of us if we treat our women in certain ways? Do we factor in that it's okay with some of those women to be treated in that way? Do we factor in that some of our ladies perform in the same way towards us? Do we factor in that it is okay with some of us that we be treated in that way? Do we factor in that without any teaching going on, right, the children are watching all of this? And then they, like the parrots, repeat the patterns without even having any understanding of what it is that they are repeating, perpetuating, chiseling into granite for generations to come, never recognizing even that there was a problem to start with. Why should there be anything different? This is the way it's always been. This is the way we have. You didn't hear me. We didn't even get past the first point. So this pattern of shared basic assumptions has been invented, it has been discovered, or it has been developed by a particular group of people. Okay? This is any group. Now, the two elements that are most important with culture, the two reasons culture develops, is to allow the group to successfully adapt to changes in its external environment and to maintain its own internal integrity. That's what culture is for. That's what everything we think of as culture, those are the two reasons it exists. What does integrity mean? Integrity is a mathematical term. Did you know that?
No.
You probably thought it was.
Integer.
There you go.
Integer.
They just said it. Integer. What is an integer?
Don't change.
The integer is a solid whole number. It's not a fraction. It's not a mixed number. It is whole unto itself. That's what an integer is. Now, ITY is a suffix that means the quality of whatever the root was. So if you fly in a plane and you find out that this plane does not have airtight integrity, it doesn't have the quality of being whole, it has a breach somewhere, that plane is going to go down. Not by landing on the runway. You get in a ship, it doesn't have watertight integrity, it's going to sink. That's what I mean by integrity. The group uses culture to maintain its internal integrity, right? And to adapt as a unit to changes in its environmental, in its external environment. That's the role of culture. Whatever the assumptions are, whatever the pattern of assumptions holds, those are the two purposes for it, and they've worked over time well enough for the group to consider them as valid responses to those changes and the efforts to maintain their integrity. That's what it's for. Because they have worked, we teach them to the new members of the group. A brother joins a lodge, he's immediately taught the basic assumptions. A sister joins a chapter. You go into a new school, you have to be taught what the basic assumptions are. You go into a company to work, they give you an onboarding day, right? So you can learn how things are supposed to work in the company. Then they have the meeting with you in the locker room and teach you what the real culture is. Okay? We have to look at our culture to understand where we need to work on it. And that means our families too. That means our relationships too. That means ourselves as individuals. We have individual culture. Okay? There's so much more that I want to share with you. We just don't have the time. We just don't have the time, and I can't do you injustice and hold you beyond because you're God's people. I respect that. Brother say, keep going. All right, well, I'll give you one last piece. Okay? You should see a paper called Epistemology on one side and the philosophical aspects of cultural difference on the other.
We just have one.
I didn't pass those out?
You need some to reach to the rear.
I think, you know what? Let's start in the back this time. Thank you, Pastor.
That's only fair.
I can't go into this one as deep or as long as I want to, but I at least want you to have something to carry back with you. Your homework assignment, by the way, is to look up that Emancipation Proclamation. I need you to be able to find out what states were the ones that it didn't even apply to. Not only the northern states, because there were northern states that had not broken out of the Union. I want to say there were 5 of them that were slave-holding states.
New Jersey.
In the north.
New Jersey.
Okay? Don't just take the narrative because that's what the parrots were saying. You're supposed to be the traveler. You're supposed to know where the punchline is. When somebody says, oh, the Emancipation Proclamation, all the slaves were free. Ha, ha, ha. That's the punchline. All the slaves were not freed by the Emancipation Proclamation. The document didn't even apply to states in the north, certain ones, that had slaves. But because they had not seceded from the Union, it didn't apply to them. The problem was not that slavery was going on, except to the extent that slavery caused the southern states to secede from the Union. That was the problem. Different narrative, right? So we need to factor these things in. What I had wanted to share with you, thumbnail sketch. Under this size that says epistemology, you find various ethnicities, different people in the world. Okay? And it talks about how we come to know the things that we know. I want you to look at that. And you know what? You can reach out. You can reach out, whoever brought you here, whoever invited you, they can put you in touch. And I'll share some more information with you about it if you reach out and ask for the information. Because otherwise, we're going to be here for another quite a while, and that wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be fair. So I want to thank you for the attentiveness that you've given me. I want to thank you for the responsiveness you've shown to me, and for accepting me to stand in front of you for a significant period of the time of your life today and talk to you about some things, which you didn't have to do. You could have got up and walked out, but you didn't do that. So I appreciate you for it. I thank you for it. I honor you for it. And God bless you.
Thank you, Doc.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Came a little late, but see if I know by the
I know y'all didn't think you saw, right?